The start button.
The start
Yeah.
button.
Press
Goku,
the
whatever you
start
do,
button.
don't press the start button. I think this is the second podcast in a row we've started with a dumb bad joke like that.
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. Hello and welcome to the Swear Jar, everyone. I'm Jazz. With me, I have Marky Mark and Doomy Dooms as usual. Back to the
What's
normal. And this week is part one of two that's going to be a little rough for some people. I will go ahead and before we even get into anything, give a small trigger warning for just badness. All of it. Uh, I will lightly touch on domestic abuse and spousal abuse early on. Um, and then there's just murder from there. So it's a rough story. I'm not gonna lie, but it is a story that I have been fascinated with pretty much my entire life. Um, I grew up, as we have known, in upstate New Jersey. So this man was arrested in the county I was born and raised in, actually. We are going to cover a man known as the Iceman, Richard Kuklinski. Um, he's a sick fuck. That's like if you haven't seen the documentaries, if you've seen the Iceman movie, throw all of it out of your brain. Just throw it out. It doesn't exist. It is lies and deceit. Um, it does not at all justify who the Iceman really was as a monster of a human being. So I guess without further ado, let's start getting into it. You boys ready?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So, Richard Kuklinski was an American murderer. Whether or not he is a serial killer, we will discuss later on in this episode. Who, over his 30 years as a contract hitman for the mafia, has not really confessed, but talked about and said that he has committed upwards of 200 murders during his time as a hitman and other practices he had. Um, he's a
Yeah,
sick fuck. Uh,
he is. He is.
yeah. He was a horrible man who beat his wife and family, and even told his kids that if he ever went too far and accidentally killed his wife, he would also have to kill them to cover it up. Okay? Yet,
Yeah,
somehow, they never knew about his contract killing. Okay?
yeah. That never made sense to me. He kept that completely separate.
I don't know how.
I
And
don't
this is
either.
also his second family. Okay? This
Hmm.
isn't even counting the first one that he completely abandons when he meets his second like his second wife, Barbara,
Hmm.
who is a poor, unfortunate soul. I do not feel good for her or the life that she was dealt. Um, but that is something I will honestly not touch on very much.
No,
In
this is a very dark thing.
Yeah, I
Very
mean,
dark.
just to go over the story quickly. Essentially, he got married to a woman, had two kids with her, two boys, I believe. Um, and
He had a daughter.
I thought it was two boys with the first one, two daughters, and a son with the second one. I can't
It
remember. I
might
didn't.
have been.
I didn't actually put that in the outline, so it wasn't something. Because, like I said, I wasn't originally going to go too in depth about this, but I am going to talk about it quick. Um, he quote unquote goes straight for a while after abandoning his first family, meets Barbara, uh, apparently at a vending machine. Wild and crazy, stupid story. Meets her at a vending machine, blah, blah, blah. Uh,
Yeah.
Eventually ends up taking her out, gets her pregnant after a while, and she, because he was already abusing her by the time she got pregnant, tried to run away to Florida. Her mom not only told her where she was, but gave him the fucking money to pay for the divorce from his first wife. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dooms, how you feeling about all this so far?
That's a bit okay. I mean, I can't believe he actually managed to convince her to pay for it, though.
Yeah. Yeah. So I said before, if you can find a way to insert jokes, this is going to be a bit of a rough episode. All right?
Oh yeah.
Um but like, yeah, he bit of a bastard, man. Uh that
Just putting it lightly.
yeah, that first child never made it to term. It was a miscarriage because he beat her. He ended up. She had 3 miscarriages before the first child was even born, all from domestic abuse.
Yeah, he beat the shit out of her nonstop.
Yeah, and but you got to remember, all right, like this was a long time ago. Back in
Yeah.
those days, domestic abuse was a regular part of day-to-day life for most people, as I will
Unfortunately, yeah.
go into more shortly. Um, so he killed many people, not even as part of hits, just for simple things like flipping him off in traffic. And
Yeah.
during one of the interviews, the third one, the Kuklinski and the psychiatrist, very good
He
documentary.
he damn near killed the person interviewing him.
Yep, because he dared to question like his I guess his opinion would be the best way to put it, because he asked him if it was justified to kill somebody over flipping him off. And he said he did it. So I guess to him it was.
Yeah.
And he's a very cold and sick fucking man.
Like, yeah, very, very monotone, flat voice. You could never tell when he was angry or anything, and that made him even more scary, in my opinion.
Yeah, like he's more monotone than Mark. All right.
Yeah,
And he always talks real slow so you can hear every single word that comes out of his mouth the whole time he's speaking. Just nice, slow cadence, even when he's talking about killing somebody and cutting them open, dismembering bodies with a chainsaw, which he actually
Wow.
laughed. Yeah, when they talked about the chainsaw thing, he laughed because he said chainsaws
hmm
were messy, and why would he get blood and guts and all that all over his nice tailored clothes?
Yeah.
yeah.
Like
His methods of disposal were unique, to say the least.
we won't get into a lot of that this episode, but I will tease. If anybody has HBO Max, go and watch at least the third one. The first two are very 90s and dated.
hmm
Also, I'll go over to something in a minute where, like, in the documentary, they say one thing, but in the book and all subsequent material after the documentary, it's something different.
Yeah, it's because I'm not getting into it. That just makes me angry.
No, I'll explain when I get to that point. I'll explain. Like, I have it kind of set
Oh,
aside.
okay.
Yeah. Um, I will get into this part later on as well, that he would kill homeless men as a matter of sport, and even once killed a random man on the street with a crossbow just as a test to see if it would work. Okay?
hmm
Which I this doesn't really bode well for my mental well-being, I guess, but his response when they asked him if it worked, and the gleam, like the sparkle in his fucking eye as he smiled and went, yeah, yeah, it worked. I
Yeah,
just like
he laughed and he's like, yes.
like
Mhm.
you could see it in
He
his
was
eye. He was proud of that one. Okay.
hmm he was
And
very happy.
it's so fucking sickening to know that he was happy about it, but at the same time, like, do you honestly do you want to know what that gave me? And that the first time I watched it, because the first time I watched this was many, many years ago when I was a young teenager. Honestly, I probably watched this when I was like 12 or 13 because it's when it came out. I was about that age. But like, it just, I don't know, it fucked me up. But at the same
The,
time, well, no, my first thought was, well, at least now I know if zombies ever come, I can use a crossbow. Like, it actually works.
I mean, yeah, the first time I watched it, it sent cold chills down my spine. Just how happy he was with it. I was like, oh my god, this dude's a fucking monster.
Yes. Yes. He's a sick fuck. And, like I said, he was arrested in Bergen County, New Jersey, which is the county I am from. Now then, it wasn't Bergen County. I'm not gonna say it's a big county, but like,
I mean, enough. It's big enough.
well,
Yeah.
Mark, you've not been up there, have you?
I've not been to Bergen County, no.
Okay, so Bergen
Not
County,
that I knew of, at least. I
or
might
here,
have
I'll put
been.
it this way: New Jersey, the entire state of New Jersey, is approximately 3 times the size of Sevier County. Okay,
Oh.
Mm,
so
that's a lot
Sevier
one,
County's
smaller than I
actually
thought.
pretty good size.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know, but you've got to realize that you could fit New Jersey into Tennessee like three or four times.
Yeah.
All right, so like I'm from a very small state. All right, like it's very tiny, but that means that like the counties are not very big. Essentially, like Kodak would be like 3 or 4 towns.
Hmm.
Because you got to realize though, instead of all this open land we have, it was basically city block after city block after street block after street block after street block after it just nonstop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like Dooms, I've got to take you up north one day, just so you can
Yeah.
see what it's really like to be up there and why I
Yeah.
never want to fucking go back. No offense to people who live up there and love it there. All right, I understand. There are benefits, but once you live with these beautiful fucking mountains as your backdrop to life for a couple years, you don't ever want to go back. All
They kind
right?
of grow on you.
Yeah, all right. And after saying that, I'm going to say it now. The ginger, Patrick, who was on a couple weeks ago, he will listen to this and he will call me and be like, "You dirty motherfucker. All right, you know I miss the mountains. That's the only thing he misses about living out in Kansas." Well, it's probably
Only
not the only thing,
Kansas.
but like, it's one of those things. I know he'll never move back, and I respect that because I'm one of the few people that like completely understand that off topic. But yeah, so back to the Iceman before we get too far away from this shit. Well, actually, real quick, the Iceman. It was a name given to him by the media and cops due to him freezing bodies to confuse time of death, but this is a fun fact. He had already been known as the Iceman since he was a young man. That was actually a nickname given to him when he was like 16 or 17 years old. We'll tell that story
Yep.
here in a little bit. His other names, which I got, the first two are just kind of bland: Big Rich or Richie, which are kind of bland. It's just off. His name's Richard. Um, the Polak, which is an offensive word for Polish person. I'm sorry to any Polish individuals listening to this podcast. I don't mean anything by it. That's just his fucking nickname. Or to the people who knew him best, simply the devil. All right, because he was a sick fucking man. He was able to work for
Yeah.
all 5 of the New York crime families, along with 2 New Jersey ones. And this is really horrible to say. Technically, being able to work for that many different crime families is kind of impressive. All
Yeah.
right.
And they were all afraid of him.
Yeah. All right. Like all of them were afraid of this man. But he also had their respect from a young age, which is another thing. I keep teasing about shit we're going to talk about. I need to stop teasing and just talk. Yeah, because we're already 15 minutes in. All right. So I'll name off the main 5 crime families from New York quick. They are the Gambinos, the DeCavalcantes, the Lucheses, the Genoveses, and the Colombos. If I remember correctly, those are all 5 of the main 5.
Mm-hmm.
And he himself said, from the time that he took a contract, you were a dead man walking, and that he only ever had 2 rules to his killings: no women, no children. Okay? And otherwise, if you were an adult male and you had either annoyed him, or yet another thing he straight up says in the documentary, if you were a loudmouth individual, he loved to kill you. All right? Because, as he said, loudmouth individuals remind him of his father. And as we were
And he
about
hated his father.
about to say, as we were about to get into, he hated his father to the point he never referred to him as anything other than Stanley. Now then, quick aside, this guy, Richard Kuklinski, okay, is the character that they based the father from Boondock Saints off of. All right, like, you guys know that movie, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the father from that movie is based off of Kuklinski.
Hmm.
Yep, they are essentially. That's why I said he had 2 boys, because they're essentially the 2 boys that he left behind. And that's why they were trying to give him this like nice story about how he became a good man and all this and that. No, he did not. He was a murderer.
He
So
was such a good man, like he killed people for fun.
yes. So Richard Leonard Kuklinski was born on April 11th, 1935 in Jersey City, New Jersey, in his family's apartment. His father, Stanislaw Kuklinski. They called him Stanley because Stanislaw is a weird Polish name. And his mother, Anna McNally, which he referred to his father as Stanley and his mother as simply Cancer. Yeah. Rough childhood. Gonna go into that here in a minute. But Stanley was a railroad brakeman. All right, which for those of you who don't know, back in the 1930s and 40s and I think, in the 50s is when it stopped. A railroad brakeman literally was a man who was like, they had one on each car and they would, like, I guess, yell their way back. I don't fucking understand it. But each one would literally apply the brakes manually. Okay, which meant his father, which, hold on, for those. Father. For those of you watching the feed, this is a picture of his mother and father. I think I didn't send it to you guys. Hold on. That right there is a picture of his parents. His father, Stanley, was said to be a slender man, but strong as a fucking bull. Which, in order to fucking, literally stop railroad cars with the force of
Good
your
hefty
own
dude.
body leaning against it, you gotta be
That's a bit
kind of.
impressive.
Yeah. Which is wild because you can't really see his mom very well in this image, but she was said to be kind of slender as well. When Kuklinski was captured, I believe he was 6'4" or 6'5" and 350 pounds. He was
Big as
like,
fuck.
yeah, he was like the size of Dooms or Joker. All right, for those of you who
Yeah.
know us personally, very large man.
Mhm.
So it's one of those things like, and it was said that he moved like a cat, which I think Dooms is part of why I like you so much. Is you remind
Mhm.
me of Kuklinski if he wasn't a murderous psychopath. Because you are a very large man who moves dead silently, and if you wanted to be a murderous psychopath, you probably could do it for a little while and get away with it. Just
Because
Eh.
nobody would suspect you is the thing.
yeah,
Oh.
yeah. All
Like,
right.
you're so nice, everyone would be like, "Ah, there's no way he would do that."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anna, who when he later explained more of his mother's story, is a tragic figure who was really a victim of her own life. She was the daughter of of Irish immigrants who died when she was very young, leaving her to a Catholic orphanage where she was religiously, no pun intended, beaten by nuns and molested by priests. So, needless to say, she had a pretty rough childhood herself.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna go into a story here and now that is yet again. This is where like those gold stars I've been giving out. All these episodes mean nothing compared to if you make it through this one. If you make it through this one, you deserve a true gold star. All
If you
right,
make it through
like
this one, you're getting a platinum star.
yeah, like I'm sorry to you two for being forced to listen to all of my psychotic shit because of my love of this. Um, but that's why we don't do this often as well. So,
Yeah.
Stanley was an abusive alcoholic who would regularly beat Richard so badly that Richard began to piss himself at the sheer sound of his father's voice, which, being a abusive drunk alcoholic, piece of shit, would just make him angrier and beat him more. When Richard was 5 years old in 1940, he witnessed his father beat his brother to death in front of him by punching him in the back of the head until he just didn't get back up.
Wow.
They covered it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they covered it up by telling the cops that he fell down the stairs. And remember, this is 1940. This is right as World War II is really starting to gear up. It's not long. It's either not long before or after Pearl Harbor. Or was Pearl Harbor in
It's just they
40 or
didn't
39? No, it was 40. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm not
yeah.
looking into it. But
Yes,
it,
they didn't have time to deal with this shit pretty much.
yeah, most like cops were enlisting in the army to go fight in the war, to go kill some Nazis. So the cops didn't bother with it, and the locals were probably also afraid of Stanley, so they left it alone. And so one of his earliest memories of his father is watching him beat his older brother to death, which
Mhm.
he said is part of, like, his father and all of that is part of what gave him this weird disposition towards death to where he doesn't really feel anything about it.
No, like, it's just a business transaction to him, it's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's fucked up. Dooms, are you all right? Do you need a little break?
Oh no, I'm good.
Okay, I was about to say we're not at the end of the
Yeah.
first page yet.
Oh yeah, I know. Keep
Okay.
going.
Um, this is where Dooms. I think this part will probably hurt you the most, and I'm sorry.
Mhm.
As a child, Richard loved to do many horrible things to animals. He started by tying the tails of cats together and throwing them over tree branches and clotheslines and watching them rip each other apart. He would
Holy
throw,
shit.
yeah, he would throw cats down the incinerator shaft in his apartment complex and
Yeah,
turn it
this
on.
dude is a grade A. He's a grade A monster, there's no way around it.
Yeah, he would turn the
Oof.
furnace on and watch the cats try and claw their way up until the heat eventually overtook them. He would tie dogs to the bumpers of cars and buses and watch them as they would try and keep up until they finally fell and were just dragged until they died.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's really fucked up, actually. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Um, Neighbors at the time, like the neighborhood, people said that there was like no stray population by the time he was a teenager, that he had killed all the stray animals in the area. All right, like now then, I
Yep.
understand this is in the 40s. people didn't have the same love for their animals that people do now. People thought strays were garbage and this and that, and it was a different culture. But that doesn't make it acceptable to murder and like to do these types of things, because these are what led him down the road to becoming a murderer. Like I said, here in a
Mhm.
bit, we will talk about whether or not he is a serial killer. All right. So, whew, let's get into some other stuff. Um, Later, after his brother was killed, all that fun stuff. They had two more children, a son and a daughter. We will get into the son, his brother Joseph, later. Actually, you know what? We'll get into his brother Joseph right now, just to get it the fuck out the way. When his brother Joseph was, I think it was 25 or 26 years old, because this is another thing not in the outline here, but glad I'm covering it now so I don't have to later. He raped a 12-year-old girl, then dragged her and her dog to the top of their apartment complex, choked her until she passed out, and then threw her and the dog off the roof.
Holy shit. What the fuck?
When asked about his brother, all Richard had to say was, "We come from the same father."
Mhm.
Now then, Richard does not seem to condone his brother in any sense
Oh
whatsoever.
no, he straight up hated his brother.
Yeah, because Richard was a family man. Now then, he was not a good man. Like I said, he beat his wife and his kids and all that shit. But he was still a family man. And it
Mhm.
was well documented that when one of his daughters was sick and in the hospital, he did not take a single hit during that time and stayed at her hospital bed the entire time. So,
Mhm.
there are parts of this man that are human. Okay? He did care for at least that one daughter. And apparently, that
It was his
daughter's
favorite.
yeah, it was his favorite, and she said that whenever, he made the statement about if he had to kill the mom, he would have to kill them, he always told her that he would have the hardest time killing her because he actually loved her. Which is fucked up that he acknowledges that he would still kill his daughter, but he loves her. Ooh. So, um, around the time the second child, or the third, well, technically the fourth overall child was born, um, Richard's father left the family. Not completely. He would come back to beat on them and live there for a little while, but he didn't stay with them consistently. So
Mhm.
Richard began stealing things in order to feed the family. At first, it was just food. Then it became, I'm enjoying this. Let me steal this. Let me steal that. Quickly, his favorite thing to steal became true crime magazines. Okay. So he starts reading these true crime magazines, which I didn't steal them, but I definitely read shit like this when I was younger. And it's probably why I have such a warped sense of reality, but sorry about that. Um, and even I was not as brazen or could not have done what this child did. All right. So,
Yeah, but I mean, from what I've read and what I've heard, even as a kid, he was big as fuck, and the adults were scared of him.
no, that's not true. He was considered a late bloomer and did not start getting big until he was about
Oh,
14 or
no.
15.
Yeah, no, that's right. Sorry, I was
Yeah.
thinking of something else.
Yeah, no. He was small as a child, but once he became a teenager, he got tall and kind of thin. No, I don't have a picture of him when he's young. Um, but honestly, what creepily enough, his young pictures remind me a bit of George Carlin. Just because he's kind of thin, kind of tall, and doesn't have a lot of
Mm.
hair on top.
I could see that.
Yeah, all right. He doesn't look like facial wise like George Carlin, but
Mm-hmm.
similar build and little to no hair on top quickly. Like, okay. So, growing up, Richard spent most of his time either being bullied at school or being beaten by his father at home. Till
Yep.
one day, he decided it was time for him to get even, essentially. After a particularly bad beating, his father sent him back out to beat the bullies up, which he did. And then he decided he wasn't done there. It felt better to beat up on than to be beaten up on. And so he went to his biggest bully and waited for him to come home. This kid's name was Charlie Lane. This is going to be his first confirmed kill. And he waited for him. Charlie came up, apparently called him a dumb Polak. Yet again, don't believe in the slur, but I have to.
And that's the one thing you did not want to do.
Yeah, I don't want to make any slurs, but I have to tell stories, and I'm sorry
Oh
for
no,
that.
I'm not meaning that. I'm saying
Yeah.
if you called
Yeah.
Kuklinski that, like you
Oh
were
yeah,
dead.
yeah. Like
Mhm.
he was called that behind his back. That was
And if he
not.
ever heard anyone say it, he didn't care who it was. He's like, I'm gonna kill you one
Yeah,
day.
yeah. So he beat him to death with a baseball bat. I think is what it was. I just wrote beat him to death. And
I think it was a baseball bat or just a piece of wood.
yeah, it was like a piece of. It was just wood. That's all I remember is that it was wood. It was a branch or something like that. It was like a la Rob Zombie Halloween, the beginning where he just beats the kid to death in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
It very much so reminds me of that. But because he was already into petty crime and had begun stealing cars at this point, he threw his body into the trunk of a stolen car, drove him down to the Pine Barrens, pulled him out of the trunk, knocked all of his teeth out with a hammer, cut his fingertips off, and then drove home, throwing fingertips and teeth out the window as he drove. And
Wow.
apparently, the further he drove, the better he felt about it. When he was done,
Yeah.
and when he was done and got back, he got a. This is why I'm thinking it's a baseball bat because I wrote that he got a baseball bat and went and beat every member of Charlie's gang to tell them never to mess with him ever again, which they never did. Now then, for a little bit of holy fucking shit, this murder was committed when he was 13 years old. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and I even
He
wrote
started
here.
very young.
I want Dooms to let that settle in for a minute. Dooms, what were
Yeah.
you doing at 13? Like, you were probably doing similar things to Mark and I when we were 13, like masturbating like crazy and playing video games, right? Like,
well, playing video games for sure, yeah, but actually no on the other one.
okay, well, I was definitely playing video
Lol.
games and masturbating like crazy. I'm not gonna lie. All right, I was a horny kid.
I played video games and then I went to go help my grandpa. So
Yeah.
Well, I guess we all had our own thing.
Mhm.
Maybe this is why I'm destined to be a cult leader. It's because I masturbate a lot. Cult.
oh my god.
We'll go
I
into it.
Okay,
mean,
yeah. We're not gonna go there.
Who wants to join the cult of jazz? All right, like,
mm,
Oh my lord.
oh come on, Dooms, you can be the.
that's a whole lot of nope.
Come on, you can
Cults,
be.
most cults in the same way. We're all gonna die.
No,
So
it will not be a death cult. I just want your money. You don't need your money. Give me your money.
okay, you're talking to the wrong people. Then we're all fucking
Mhm.
broke.
I know.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why. Okay, we'll go over to Scientology one day. We'll talk about it. All right, that's the cult of I need your money. I want your money. Give me your money. And that's
Mhm.
proof that not all cults end in suicide. Okay.
Not
Some
all of them.
Some of them, like Shoko Asahara's Shinrikyo, end because they decide to try and fucking toxic gas and kill a bunch of people in Tokyo, which we will also go over
Mhm.
in probably year 3 because I'm in no hurry right now. So
We got plenty of time.
So because of Richard's, we'll say, abusive nature towards everyone around him, he dropped out of school after 8th grade because that was not really
Mhm.
conducive for school life at all.
Yeah. He liked stealing too much, so he was like, I'd rather just spend my time stealing and killing.
Yep. So from that point forward, he got his education in pool halls and bars until.
And he had a fucking gang with
Well,
him. Like he
we're
was
gonna go over the gang
13,
here in a minute
14.
because the gang is he meets the gang during this time period, but as he's meeting up with his gang members, he gets into an argument with an Irish cop named Doyle. And since he was a cop, he knew he couldn't just slit his fucking throat like he wanted to. He had to be a little bit more finesse on it because it's going to be
Mhm.
investigated. So he waited for him outside, watched him as he lit a cigarette, sat in his car, and fell asleep drunk. So he poured a bunch of gas on him and threw in a lit match and watched him burn to death.
Yeah.
He,
Damn.
he committed that one at 16.
Nah, 16, I don't see myself watching a cop fall asleep and pour gasoline on him and then throw a lit
No,
match.
no, don't do that.
Nah, not by any stretch.
No, just certain things, just don't think I'm gonna do. He said in the documentary that he could hear him screaming as he got around the block to get to his vehicle. Like he could just still hear him screaming and burning. So during all this time in his pool halls and everything, Richard finally began to make friends. But as you will learn, if Richard ever called you his friend, it meant that at some point you were going to die, most likely
Yeah.
by his hand.
Mhm.
Also, he got his first gun in one of these bars, a 38 special with a 6-inch barrel, making him
Mhm.
feel unstoppable and a force to be reckoned with. His first gang was named the Coming Up Roses Gang. Was 5 guys, including him, from what I understand, who had big dreams of being mafia men and living that
Yeah.
lifestyle. Problem is, as we will get into more in a moment, only one of them is Italian, and in the mafia, you must be Italian to become what is called a made man. Which a made man
Mhm.
is any Italian for the mafia who has quote unquote made their bones, meaning they have killed someone in service of the mafia. Um, so we'll get back. Covering Up Rose's gang, even though they spent time with Richard, they had no idea the monster that he would truly become later in life. They started off, petty crimes, stealing cars, robbing gas stations, this, that, not really doing anything too heinous just yet, even though neither of them knew that Richard already had 2 kills under his belt before any of them even met.
Mhm.
Okay, well, actually, he had 1 because they started meeting before he killed the cop. He actually was part of the Coming Up Roses gang already when he killed Officer Doyle, apparently. And they all
Mhm.
had a tattoo on their hand that said Coming Up Roses. And it spelled out Coming Up Roses. It wasn't like just, shorthand.
Oh
Um,
yeah. And Richard's idea for that was because if anyone messed with him, they were gonna fucking kill him.
Yeah, you would be coming up roses, bitch. Um, so after a while, when you're pulling off crimes in New York, eventually, as a gang, you will be noticed by one of the major crime families. And they were, I don't know, fortunate or unfortunate. They were noticed by a member of the Decavalcante. I'm sorry. I will try and get better at reading these names. Um,
Mhm.
but he was
I
recruited
mean,
by them, and I'm not even going to try this fucking guy's name. They recruited by a guy they called Meatball. They called him Meatball because apparently he looked like a meatball with a hat. All right, I don't
oh
know
no,
what that.
no, it's because he liked making spaghetti and liked making the meatballs.
God damn it, Mark. All right, that was all right.
I mean,
You
that's not
said,
dad level joke for you.
Yeah, it was.
hey, you said we needed some comedy.
I.
This is true.
Yeah,
You asked for it.
I asked for it. Oh gosh. All right. So, where am I? All right, Meatball. Meatball recruited them for a hit. All right. So, being their first job, they wanted to impress to try and join and be part of this mafia family. They might not be made men, but they can still make a pretty penny as far as it's worth. As far as it is, just no scruples. So they went and found this guy in a bar, and the guy who they considered the tough guy for the Coming Up Roses gang Couldn't do it. He said he couldn't pull the trigger. So Richard, without hesitation, took the gun, walked up to the man, shot him in the back of the head, walked back and got in the car. They drove
Like
away.
it was nothing.
Yeah, like nothing happened. And according to Richard, one of the guys turned to him, said, "Richard, you're as cold as ice." And from that point on, they referred to him as Iceman, which is
Mhm.
apparently where he actually got the nickname Iceman. It was it was one of his nicknames, as I said. He had many over the years. Any mobster had, like, if secret mobsters have multiple nicknames, it's the big time ones that you know about that just have the one. So,
Mhm. That
first,
actually worked out to his advantage.
yeah. So remember the time period of this. This is like, you remember playing Mafia 2? This is like that time period.
Yeah.
Okay. So they were all paid $500 each for a job well done, and poured shots, made a nice spaghetti. You know, I had to go to dinner, all right, the eating, the food, the bar. So,
And then killed afterwards?
no, they didn't kill him. I mean,
Oh,
he will kill them. I will get to that in a
okay.
minute, actually, just a minute. But not
Sorry.
before they got to the point where they were so good as teenagers that they fucking stole an armored truck and netted $2 million for the theft, and they were each paid $200,000 for it.
Mhm.
All right. Now remember,
Yeah.
imagine getting paid $200,000, okay, in 1950. Okay.
Oh yeah, they said Richard went out and bought like suits and everything.
Yeah, but he grew up dirt poor. So of course, when you
He
grow up
wanted to be
poor,
flashy.
yeah, he was
Like
trying to be a little flashy.
Mhm.
Um,
like, hey, I got some money now.
I-
I'm somebody.
so
If you got it, flaunt it.
yeah, this is the point where sources don't agree, or they do, but they don't during the initial documentaries, which is what most people know. In the initial documentaries, they say that Richard didn't gamble, he didn't do drugs, which he didn't seem to do drugs. And he didn't drink, which is a lie. He was a drinker. Um, and
I
he
mean, yeah.
did gamble and he did drink. The reason the police didn't think he gambled is because he didn't go down to, like, Atlantic City and gamble like most of the mobsters. He flew out to Vegas. Okay, he would fly himself out.
Mhm.
I mean, like I said though,
Might as well
$200,000.
stay classy.
Yeah, $200,000 in 1950s money. All right, $200,000 is good money now. Okay, like 1950s. Holy fuck! Hold on, hold on,
Yeah, he was pretty much yeah, do the math real quick.
hold on. Conversion calculator.
You gonna add inflation to it?
Yeah, there's a money conversion calculator that does uh overtime. Doop, 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 doop. Oh my god. No, not that. Put a space there, motherfucker. Inflation. In 1950. Alright, so it is $200,000.
Pretty good.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so $200,000 would be approximately $2,313,709.
Damn.
Yeah, so he was virtually a millionaire.
No, he was a millionaire. Okay.
Oh
But
yeah, by those by
yeah, but
like money back
because
then, yeah.
of his gambling addiction, he never had a lot of money and always had to keep killing people or stealing or whatever. Well, he didn't start killing people yet. He was just stealing still. He only did the one hit
Mhm.
till gambling would eventually be what ended the Coming Up Roses gang. But
Mhm.
not because of Richard's gambling habits, But because two of the members from the Coming Up Roses gang decided to rob a poker game sponsored by by a made man from the same family. Okay? Like, they didn't even
That's just
go
dumb.
to a different family. They went to the same family. I even wrote, the idiots, okay, tried to hide their faces with bandanas, but they worked together, so they knew who they were. Plus, they were the only teenagers that were part of the fucking group. All right, like, they were the only teenagers they had. They're like, we know you
Mhm.
guys. Are you sure you want to do this? Like,
Oh yeah,
so,
that they pulled a dumb.
yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
sorry, that just, oh God, how can you be that dumb?
How
So,
many brain cells did you lose?
I mean, it doesn't matter because they didn't keep him for long. Richard, like I said earlier, who from a young age had the respect of the mafia guys, came to him knowing that these were his men and told him, clean up your mess. Either you kill them or we kill you. Which apparently he felt slightly conflicted at first. These were his first and only friends in life at this point, but they had broken
Mhm.
his number one rule: you don't steal from the mob. Which,
No, ever.
like, just as a general rule of thumb, okay, for everyone out there, if you're listening, just don't steal from the mob. It's like the cartels in Mexico. Try and keep like 20 or 30 sources away from the cartel.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool if you buy your bud from Pedro, but make sure Pedro buys them from like 30 other dudes first. You know?
Yeah, like make sure you're not connected or affiliated
Yeah,
at
you don't want
all.
any part of that.
Mhm.
So, yet again, did not take him long to decide that they needed to go. Walked up behind both of them with, separately apparently, without either of them noticing, and just cold heartedly shot them in the back of the head. And once the
Mhm.
rest of the gang found out, they didn't want to hang out with Richard anymore. Um,
Shocking, right?
Shocking, yeah. So, at this point, um, Dooms, how old do you think this man is at this point?
Uh,
I know you're hoping older than what I'm actually going to tell you.
I'm gonna say like maybe 22.
He was
I'm gonna
18
say
years old.
18.
Oh,
I
okay.
was right.
18 years
Just like
old with
I was
5
gonna say
confirmed
18.
kills. Okay?
And it
Damn.
just gets worse.
Yes, this is only the beginning. So it's at this point we will discuss whether or not he is a serial killer because of a habit that he comes up with after this. Which I will go into some quick details to give you guys some background information. The Oxford Dictionary defines serial killer as a person who commits a series of murders, often with no apparent motive and typically following a characteristic, predictable pattern of behavior. Now then, I'm here to tell you, as somebody who studies a lot of serial killers, that is not fully true because they typically do have a motive and there is always pattern and predictable behavior. Well, not always, because,
And some of them
yeah,
are just batshit crazy and they're like, that guy looked at me wrong.
yes. So there are typically 4 types of serial killers. One of them is broken down into 3 separate types, which is the one they consider Kuklinski, even though he doesn't consider himself that. He just considers himself a murderer. There are the visionary serial killers who believe that a person or entity is commanding them to kill, something like Son of Sam, who originally claimed that
Mhm.
the dog Son of Sam commanded me to kill. Um, Mission oriented killers kill in order to rid society of a certain group. That's like, God damn it, Robert Picton. He was killing prostitutes because he thought that if they were on drugs, they were bad and they didn't deserve to live in this world. Hedonistic
Mhm.
commits acts for their own personal pleasure, which is what they consider Kuklinski because of something I'm going to talk about in a second. or power control. Fantasize about having power and seeks to dominate and control his victims. Something like Gacy. Okay. Not Dahmer. Fuck. Dahmer's hedonistic. Nope, there it went. All right, I can't remember right now. So we get to talk if he's a serial killer, because it's at this point he gets what he refers to as a hobby, okay, and is kind of fucked up, of killing homeless men on the streets of New York City.
Mm-hmm. He would just walk up and down the streets, and if he saw them, they were dead.
Yeah, according to the book, for some reason, apparently Polish people have a penchant for walking, and I don't know what that means, but I might be Polish because I walk
What book are you?
constantly.
What book are you using?
The Iceman.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, the same book that last podcast used. That's why it's a lot of the same information, because it's the only
But
definitive
that
book.
made me
Yeah.
that made me laugh because one
Dude.
of them said that,
Yeah.
and he was like, "I like walking, so that's accurate."
Well, Henry Zabrowski is Polish. Well, he's
Yeah.
apparently his father's Polish and his mother's Italian. I've listened to a lot of last podcasts, but I've also listened to a lot of others. For anybody who likes cults, listen to a podcast called Cult Podcasts. I will tell you, it is California Girls. Be warned. Okay, that's all I'm going to give you. But back to the sick fuck. Apparently, he racked up approximately 50 kills in this way of killing homeless men. So let's go over how he would do this. The first one, apparently he was, walking down the street, and a homeless man, asked him for money, and he just blew him off until the homeless man grabbed him on the shoulder, to which Richard just, without even, nothing, just turned around, pulled out a combat knife, and stabbed the man twice in the chest and left him where he lied. Walked up the street, turned around, walked back, and enjoyed the feeling of seeing him dead by his hand.
Oh yeah, he was very happy.
Okay, and like I said, over time he would commit 50. He said he committed about 50 kills this way, where he would essentially just walk up and down the back streets of New York, the bad areas where there would be homeless, and wait for one of them to annoy him, and then he would either stab them, beat them, choke them, just kill them in some form or fashion, and then depending on how he felt, he would either leave them where they lie, or he would cut open their stomachs so that they would sink down in the Hudson River.
Yeah.
Now this is the point in time where we will talk about one of my favorite, most fucked up methods of killing that he did. And it is a method that, yet again, only two people I know could dependably do this. Dooms, you are one of them. He would walk... The way he would choke people to death. He would walk up to them, wrap a rope around their neck, twist it, turn around, and lift them up over his shoulder so that they literally were laying up on his back being choked to death, just kicking and trying to fight.
Yeah, that's a good karate technique.
Yeah, he did that so that he could feel the life leave their body. And he said in the documentary, when he asked them, when the psychiatrist asked him why he liked to kill in such fashions, he said he wanted them to look him, well, not that way, but when he was like other ways, when he would kill them, because he always tried to kill up close and personal. He said he wanted him to be the last thing they saw in this world. And whether they went on to heaven or hell or what have you, he wanted them to think of him and know that he was the one that took their life. So we're going to do a little time skip here, because during this time, he is killing a lot of people, okay? Mostly for...
And he is fucking loving it.
Yeah, fucking loving it. Mostly for that family we talked about a minute ago.
Did he just did he do it like weekly, daily?
What?
At that point,
killing?
Yeah.
Whenever he felt the urge.
Whenever he felt the urge.
Yeah, there's really not a lot of timestamps on his age after he gets into his like early 20s. They just kind of say he's been in the mob because he didn't get caught until he was in his 50s. So that's why they say 30 plus years in the mafia. He does technically, like I said, around the time he meets his second wife, Barbara, quote unquote, go straight, which, yet again, hold on, let me, family. This was his wife and two of his daughters from his second family, which I believe I already showed you guys, but I will. No, yeah, there it is. Go ahead and put it up again real quick. That's the wife and daughters. And, since I've been talking about this guy this whole episode, that's what he looks like, to those in the audience and Doomy Dooms.
If you just take a quick glance at him, he kind of looks like Tony Soprano in that picture.
That picture's not going to load. Hold on. Yeah, I can see that. Let's see if that one will load.
Like if I was just to
Yeah.
glance at him real quick.
There you go, Dooms. That one loaded good.
Yep, I actually
Yeah.
remember that picture actually from the interviews.
Yeah. All right. So, like I said, we're going to do a time skip because at this point, he's going to meet a member of a different family, the Gambino family. He met a man named Roy DeMeo, who was a complete and total sociopath. Headed a crew named gang known as the DeMeo Crew, who over time became such psychotic cokehead killers that Kuklinski tried to eventually, not really be associated with them.
Yeah, and that says a lot if this dude is like, yeah, no, these are bad people.
But he did
Yeah.
appreciate their method of disposal in certain times. They had a method of disposal that was known as the Gemini disposal method because of the Gemini Lounge bar that DeMeo ran. Where in the basement they would cut up dead bodies, they would drain them in the showers first, literally just hang them by their feet, slit their throat, and let their blood drain. That kind of shit. But long before Richard dealt with any of that, he was just a man meeting him. So DeMeo, heard that he could do some work and asked him if he would be willing to kill someone for him. No questions asked. Richard said, yeah, I could probably do that, which apparently wasn't the answer he was looking for. So his reply was just probably. So Richard was like, yeah, no, I can do that. That'd be fine. So DeMeo has his driver get the car. Him and Richard get in the back. They drive to New York. They park on a side street, just sit there talking, BSing, doing what have you. And DeMeo sees a man walking his dog on the street. And he says, go kill that guy. And Richard looks over and he goes, who? The guy walking his dog over there? He goes, yeah, go kill him. Richard goes, okay. Gets out the car, walks over, just starts walking towards the guy, like nothing. Nothing going on, just walking towards him. As soon as he makes the first step past him, he turns over his shoulder, shoots him in the back of the head, keeps walking. They pull up the car, he gets in the car, and they drive off. And that, as he says in the documentary, is how he ended up involved working with Roy DeMeo. And it's there that we will have to pick back up next week for part 2 because we cannot cram any more into this episode. Next week, we will go into a lot more of his murder methods. We will go into like some of the other things that he did as a mafia type guy. And we will go into his eventual demise after he kills literally everyone he was ever friends with, except for the one guy that testified against him. That was the only friend that Richard didn't kill. Oh, you guys all right after all that? I know that was a heavy episode.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. For anybody in the audience listening, thank you for making it that far. This is, like I said, a heavy episode. Let me get that motherfucker off my screen because I have spent a lot of time researching, and at no point do I hate this man. Most of these serial killers and murderers, I really am not like, I like studying them to watch out for those types of signs in people. But this one doesn't fuck me up like too as much as some of the others, just because like it was a job to him. Like now then the homeless people and like the test and the crossbow and some shit like that was just because he was a sick fuck. But for the most part, he looked at it as just work. It was how he made a living because he was good at it. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, this is it's not our longest episode, but it's a decently long one. Like I said, I want to thank everybody for making it this far. Um, if you don't listen to next week because you don't want to hear how much worse it can actually get, I understand. If you need to take a week off, after next week, we will go back to some normalcy. Mark, you have. Oop, it did it again. Oops.
Uh-oh.
No, it's cool. It'll come back. Oh, oh, come on. There we go. It's back. Um, next, like I said, next week we're doing that. Mark, you have until I think the last week of March to get, like last 2 weeks of March to get your shit together for a Witcher thing. It can be one episode or two, however you want to do it. But after we're done with Kuklinski, we're going to be moving on to our 1 year anniversary episode.
Yeah.
That will be in early March, I believe, which is why you have a little time. That will be a special episode. We will have. I will sneak preview that we are supposed to have Sir Cheese on the episode for him to return, and I think we changed. I think we changed Dart's full name. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. So if you understand Star Wars lore, Darth is essentially a prefix for the word, or for the prefix for in, because Darth Vader in Vader, Darth Sidious in Sidious, that's what the prefix is meant to mean if you translated it technically to English. So I believe by the time this episode comes out, he will be Darth Justice because he is injustice, which I really hope he goes through with that. But you know, thank you for listening. I hope you make it through the next one as well, and hail Satan and hail yourselves.
If you listen to this, you got a gold star.
Yeah, for real.
You are to stab. For sure.